After my millionaire grandmother died and left me everything in her will, my parents, who spent my whole life telling me I was not really family, tried to sue me for every dollar. When I walked into the courtroom, my mom rolled her eyes, but the judge froze. "Wait, the charges are against you?" he said. They never knew who I really was. "My name is Edward. I'm 31. I run a small farm on the edge of a town people drive through without stopping unless they need diesel or eggs. I grow corn, rotate soy, keep 6 jerseys for milk, and fix things with baling twine when I can't afford the right part. I wear the same canvas jacket in spring and fall, and I still use the toolbox my grandma gave me when I was 14. In my family story, I was always the extra. Not really family, my mom would say when she was tired and thought I couldn't hear. It started as a joke and hardened into a rule. My older brother, Nate, was the golden one. He played varsity, everything, and spoke in bullet points like a man selling his own reflection. My younger sister, Julia, was the princess, cheer captain, lash extensions by 16, promised a condo by 20. Me? I was the background farmhand, the kid who stayed out in the shed and didn't get it. Dad liked to say, "City brains make money, farm hands make messes." He said it at Thanksgiving, at graduations, at the DMV, once while we were renewing registrations. It was the kind of line he rehearsed in the mirror. I learned to nod and keep moving. Seed needs planting, animals need water, fences sag, storms don't care about who you think you are. My grandma, Dad's mom, never matched their script. She'd come out to the field in a sun hat the size of a satellite dish and pass me a thermos of sweet tea. "You got your grandfather's hands," she'd say. "That's good. Hands keep you honest." We never talked about money. We talked about weather and how tomatoes are liars until they're ripe. When I was 18, she pressed my palm and said, "Don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you." I didn't argue with anyone. I showed up. Nate needed a truck at midnight. I showed up. Mom needed her porch steps fixed before ladies' Bible brunch. I showed up. When Julia's cat got stuck in the crawl space, I went headfirst into spider hell and came out coughing up insulation, but smiling in the photo she posted with the caption, "Not all heroes." They like me useful. Useful meant allowed in the room. The trigger wasn't a fight. It was the county fair. Dad was holding court under the livestock pavilion, telling a circle of men in ball caps how Nate had strategized his way into an investment job in the city and how Julia had brand deals. I was standing behind him with a hay hook in my hand, invisible as usual. A woman pointed at me and said, "Isn't that your son with the dairy ribbons?" Dad didn't turn around. He waved at the air. "He just helps out," he said. "He's not really family. He's more a helper." I laughed because if I didn't, my face would show it. I put the hook down and walked out into the blinding August sun. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. I almost let it go to voicemail. I'm still not sure why I picked up. "Edward," a crisp voice said. "This is attorney Marian Keller. I represent your grandmother." There was a pause. "We need to talk." I leaned against the feed store wall. I could hear the soft thud of goats ramming a gate. "Is she okay?" I asked. "She passed this morning," the attorney said. Wind in my ears. The sun got too hot. "Oh, there's a will," she said. "And you should probably sit down." I slid onto a stack of mulch bags between premium cedar and buy 3 get 1. I didn't know yet how much that call would change or how fast my parents would show me exactly what not really family looked like when money walked into the room. People think the explosion starts with the money. It doesn't. It starts with all the unpaid tabs before the money shows up. Mine started at 12 when Mom told me to skip a school trip and watch Nate's science project because his grade matters. It continued when Dad said I didn't need college if you've got dirt under your nails, and when Grandma slipped me $300 for community college anyway and told me not to tell. I registered for night classes in soil science and AG business. Dad asked me to cover a Saturday pour for Nate's friend's garage slab because Nate's got an interview. I missed my exam. I took the fail and retook it. "You're stubborn," Grandma said. She said it like a blessing. We were not poor. Let me say that before they jump out of the bushes to correct me. We had a 4-bedroom colonial with a wrap porch and a barn Dad called decorative, but that I kept from collapsing with a bottle jack in prayer. We had new cars in the driveway every few years. Nate got a silver SUV at 17 to boost his confidence. Julia got a convertible at 18 to celebrate her scholarship. I got keys to an '02 farm truck with a cracked windshield and a note. "Watch the transmission." When I asked Dad if we could fix it, he said I could if I bought the parts. I did. He said that was the point. Lessons. I paid rent starting at 19. $300 cash in a plain envelope I left on mom's desk each month, so you'll learn. I also covered the propane delivery one winter because dad forgot, and I didn't want my siblings cold. I fixed the septic when it burped up shame into the yard. I learned later that while I was changing filters and making payment plans, they were taking vacations with hashtags. I didn't resent it at first. Resentment is like rust, slow, patient, thorough. When Grandma died, the town posted a nice obituary. Garden club, church choir, beloved matriarch. They left out the part where she kept a ledger of every time she watched a game through a window because she wasn't invited inside. Every time my mom rolled her eyes when she brought a casserole. They left out the part where she ran numbers in her head while snapping beans. She wasn't just kind. She was quiet rich. No one in the family did the math because they didn't think she owned math. Attorney Keller's office had carpet thick enough to swallow your boot heel. She poured coffee like we were old friends and slid a folder across the desk. Your grandmother set up a trust when your grandfather died, she said. She added to it over the years. Sold a piece of land your father didn't even know she still held. Invested. Carefully. I nodded because nodding is what you do when someone uses words like trust and carefully in the same sentence. She left everything to you, Keller said. The house, the accounts, the land across Route 9, the CDs, the brokerage. There are letters. One is for you. One is for me to read to the family. I stared at the manila edge. Why me? It came out small. She wrote it down. Keller tapped the file. Do you want to read your letter now or later? I took it out to my truck and read it with my forehead on the steering wheel. Grandma's handwriting leaned right like it was trying to get somewhere. Edward, it said, you saw me. You fix what breaks. You listen more than you talk. This won't make you better than anyone. It will make you louder to people who haven't been listening. Don't apologize for being chosen, but don't gloat. Use it to finish what your grandfather started. And when they try to make you feel small, remember, you were always big. Love, Grandma. I didn't tell anyone for a day. I fed the cows and mended fence and carried that letter like a talisman. Then Keller scheduled a reading. She insisted we do it in her office to keep it professional. I knew what that meant. They came dressed like it was a brunch. Mom in a pink blazer. Dad in his church suit. Nate with a haircut that tried too hard. Julia in white with sunglasses on her head. They expected shares. They expected fairness. They expected words like equal. They expected me to be a footnote. Keller read the will. She read Grandma's lines out loud. It was short, clean, unambiguous. I leave the entirety of my estate to my grandson, Edward, Mom laughed. It was one sharp bark. Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing gravel. Nate's face did a math it didn't like. Julia whispered, what? 3 times like a chant. Mom leaned forward. This is a mistake, she said. She meant Nate. He's the eldest. She wrote Edward, Keller said. She was confused. Mom snapped. Keller slid out a video file. She recorded a statement last month. She pressed play. Grandma looked into the camera in her kitchen, measuring cups behind her, the rooster clock over her shoulder. Hi, she said. This is for after I go. I'm leaving everything to Edward. If you're angry, ask yourself why. If you're surprised, it's because you weren't paying attention. Mom stood so fast her chair rocked. This is insane. Dad pointed at me. Did you manipulate her? I blinked. I was in a field, I said. Mostly forever. Nate tried to smile. We can work something out. Family right. Julia's mascara was perfect. It's not like you need it, she said. You're a farmer. I didn't say anything. I signed where Keller told me to sign. I picked up my hat. Mom blocked the door. You can't do this, she hissed. I didn't do anything, I said. You're not really family, she said, autopilot engaged, the cruel line like a reflex. Keller stepped between us. That will be all, she said, professional voice. Any disputes can be filed formally. Disputes came fast. By the end of the week, I had 53 missed calls, 27 texts from 3 different numbers, and 1 voicemail from Dad that was just breathing followed by, answer your father. They demanded a renegotiation. They said Grandma owed the family. They said I should be a man and split it 3 ways. When I didn't, they pulled out the old tools. Guilt, shame, rewrite. You used her, Mom texted. She was lonely. You always were a taker, Nate wrote. Don't let a windfall turn you into a monster. You can keep the house, Julia DM'd me, but the cash is low-key ours. I didn't answer. I read Grandma's letter again and went out to grease the baler. I moved into Grandma's house because someone had to feed the bluebird that kept hitting the kitchen window like it owned the place. I stacked her recipe cards. I ran my hands over the dent in the banister where Grandpa's ring had worn a smooth groove. I slept in the room that still smelled like rose soap and cedar. They escalated. First it was family meeting, then financial plan, then legal counsel. The envelope arrived on a Friday. Complaint. It said at the top. They were suing me for undue influence, interference with expected inheritance, and my favorite, conversion of family assets. I sat on the porch steps and held the paper like it might bite. The cows chewed. The sky went that bruised blue of another storm coming. I called Keller, voice steady because my hands weren't. They'll lose, she said. But we'll have to play the game. Okay, I said. And Edward? Yeah. Don't talk to them without me. Mom called 14 times that night. She left one message so calm it made my stomach flip. We just want what's right, she said. You know you're not really one of us. Old line, new teeth. I changed the farm's locks. I set boundaries like fences, firm posts, tight wire, no apologies. They didn't like fences when they weren't the ones building them. Court dates don't feel like TV. They feel like waiting rooms that forgot their purpose. I wore a clean shirt and my only good boots. Keller told me to keep answers short and to look at the judge, not my mother. You don't win points with performance, she said. You win with facts. When we walked into the courtroom, Mom rolled her eyes so hard I heard the air move. Nate smirked like we were about to settle a bar tab. Dad wouldn't look at me. Julio whispered to a friend in the second row like this was content. The judge was a guy with a face like a closed garage door. He shuffled papers, adjusted his glasses, looked at the docket, and then actually froze. He looked from the complaint to me, then to Mom and Dad, then back to me. Wait, he said, eyebrows up. The charges are against you? Keller didn't flinch. Yes, Your Honor. He looked at Mom. You're alleging undue influence by your son, the farmer? Mom lifted her chin. He isolated her, she said. He took advantage. The judge glanced at the file again. Your mother's video says otherwise. She was coerced, Dad said, voice booming like he thought volume could change law. The judge sighed like a man who had fixed the same leak too many times. We'll hear testimony. But I want to be clear. Wills that are properly executed and videotaped are hard to overturn. Mom scoffed, loud enough to carry. They put me on the stand. Opposing counsel tried to make farm chores sound like waterboarding. How often were you alone with your grandmother? He asked. Most days, I said. She liked to sit with the cows. What did you discuss? Feed. Weather. The neighbor's dog. Did she ever offer you money? Once, I said. For a tractor part. I told her no. She bought the part anyway and left the receipt in my glove box. He tried another tack. Isn't it true you needed financial help? I needed a new head gasket, I said. I had a payment plan. And then she died and left you everything. Convenient, isn't it? I looked at the judge. I would have preferred she didn't die. Keller asked simple questions. Did you ever ask your grandmother to change her will? No. Did you know she had a trust? No. What did she talk about most? How my grandfather built a life with 2 hands and a borrowed wrench. And pie. Pie. She was very serious about crust. Laughter rippled in the back. Mom glared at the sound like it had betrayed her. Then Keller called a witness I didn't expect. Pastor Lane, the woman who ran Grandma's church group. She brought a notebook with dates and tidy handwriting. She told me. Pastor said, tapping the notebook. For 2 years she planned to leave everything to Edward. She said, he pays attention. Pastor looked at my mother. She also said she didn't trust her son and daughter-in-law with property because they kept suggesting she downsize and gift things early. Mom flushed. We were helping. Keller called the farm supply owner. He testified that Grandma paid her own bills and haggled like a champ. The mail carrier testified that Grandma walked 2 miles a day and cursed only when the mailbox iced shut. The banker confirmed the trust's creation date and notarized letters. Each witness was a brick that made a wall. Mom's turn. She cried on the stand like she'd trained for it. We're a close family, she said. He's not really. Finish that sentence, the judge said. Mom swallowed. He's different. Keller's cross was clean. You texted him, and I quote, you're not really family, twice in the month before the will reading. Do you deny that? Mom blinked. That was the figure of speech. You also sent him a spreadsheet titled Fair Split, with percentages next to each sibling's name and 0 next to his. Did you think he was part of your family when you wrote that? Silence. Mrs. Hart, the judge said, voice flat. Is there any evidence of coercion? Mom's jaw twitched. He's cunning, she said. The judge leaned back. Being competent is not coercion. We broke for lunch. I sat on a wooden bench in the hallway and ate a granola bar because my stomach didn't trust sandwiches. Nate walked over, hands in expensive pockets. He leaned down like we were teammates. "Here's the thing," he said softly. "I've got investors calling. There's a fund we can launch if you liquidate 500 grand. We'll cut you in." "I have a herd that needs hay," I said. He smirked. "You could buy hay with interest. Don't be emotional." Julia came next, perfume like a phone store. "Mom's a mess," she said. "Just give her the house. Keep the cash." "No," I said. "Wow." She looked genuinely puzzled. "What happened to you? You used to be easy." "I grew a spine," I said. Back in the courtroom, Keller rested our case. Mom's lawyer did a long closing about legacy and fairness. Keller stood and said 10 words. "Your Honor, the law is clear. The will speaks for itself." The judge looked at me, then at my mother. He delivered the words I didn't know I'd been holding my breath to hear. "Complaint dismissed." Mom gasped like someone had stepped on her foot. Dad's face went red, then gray. Nate stared at a spot on the floor. Julia reached for her phone. We stood. I turned to my family. My voice came out quiet, the way a locked door sounds when it clicks shut. "This isn't about revenge," I said. "This is about closure." You'd think dismissal would calm things down. It didn't. It changed the channel. If they couldn't take it in court, they'd try to take it socially. Overnight, there were Facebook posts about greedy relatives and ungrateful children. Vague enough for deniability, sharp enough for the aunt who likes drama to DM me. "Did you really kick your parents out of your grandmother's house while they were grieving?" "No one was kicked," I typed. "They left when the judge said the law is the law." Mom called daily for a week after. She used a rotation of voices, sad, stern, nostalgic. "We used to bake cookies together," she said once, as if sugar neutralizes slander. "Remember when you broke your arm and I slept on the couch near you?" I remembered sleeping on the couch alone because the AC was broken in my room and Dad didn't want to pay for a repair. I didn't correct her. I said, "I'm not discussing the estate." She hung up with a hiss of breath. Dad left one message that was just the word traitor. He spelled it. Traitor. I replayed it once to be sure I heard him right, and then forwarded all voicemails to Keller and blocked their numbers. Boundaries are real only when they have consequences. Practical life needed attention. I hired an accountant because taxes are not vibes. I met the farm neighbor at 6 a.m. to talk about renting the north pasture with an option to buy in 2 years. I paid off Grandma's lingering medical bills and sent handwritten thank you notes to the witnesses who told the truth when it would have been easier not to. I set up a scholarship at the vocational school in her name for students in AG programs who were the first in their family to pick up a wrench. I wrote the first check and cried in my truck where no one could see me. And I put work into the house, her house, my house now, because it's what love looks like when someone is gone. I replaced the roof with a pale metal that will outlast us all. I refinished the floors. I left her measuring cups exactly where they were. I framed the letter she wrote me and hung it by the back door. The calls didn't stop. They just changed platforms. 10 missed FaceTimes in a row from Julia. 13 texts in one afternoon from Nate's new number. Caps lock. "Be a man." Then lowercase. "We're struggling." A list. His rent, his car lease, his bridge loan, his girlfriend's brand pivot. I read, put the phone face down, picked up a wrench, and tightened a squealing belt on the auger. The town took sides like towns do. At the hardware store, an old man slapped my back and said, "Good for you." At the diner, a woman I'd known since kindergarten told me I shouldn't shame my mother online, as if me posting a photo of Grandma's barn with the caption "still standing" was public warfare. I learned to nod and refill my coffee. A week after the dismissal, Mom came to the farm. She stood at the fence in a white cardigan and wedge sandals that didn't belong in mud, hands on the top rail like a preacher. I stayed by the gate. "Distance is a friend." "You're doing this to punish me," she said. "I'm doing what Grandma told me to do," I said. "She didn't mean it," Mom said. "She was old." "She meant it," I said. "She wanted us to be taken care of." Mom tried. "She told me to take care of what Grandpa built," I said. She switched tactics. "Your father is humiliated." "He humiliated himself," I said. She stared past me at the barn. "You were always handy." It sounded like an insult, and a compliment got stuck together and refused to separate. "Being handy bought your propane," I said before I could swallow it. "Twice." Her mouth opened, closed. "We raised you," she said finally, like an invoice. I thought about every $300 rent envelope I'd left on her desk. I thought about every favor that came with a lecture. I thought about Grandma's note. Don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Go home, I said. Please. She didn't move. We're still your family. I looked at the fence between us. Solid. Straight. You told me I wasn't, I said. For years. She flinched. Real small. It lasted half a second. Fine, she snapped. If you think you're better than us now, enjoy it. Money leaves faster than it arrives. She turned, heels sinking in the dirt, and drove away too fast for a gravel road. Dust hung. I wiped my eyes with the back of my wrist because grit had found a way in. I expected the quiet to feel empty. It didn't. It felt like open space. I got up at 4:45 instead of 4:30 because my body was no longer braced for a text demanding a favor before sunrise. I started running the south fence line in the evenings with the dog, a mutt grandma called Buddy because she wasn't interested in irony. I kept a notepad on the kitchen table and wrote down small wins, while pump humming. Calf number 12 gaining. Found a better deal on mineral. Then, just when the dust settled, an envelope arrived by certified mail. Notice of appeal. Of course. Keller called before I could call her. Don't panic, she said. They're trying to drag this out. How long? I asked. Long enough to hope you'll cave. I won't. I know, she said. But they don't. The appeal failed fast. Procedural, sloppy. The judge didn't even schedule a full hearing. He issued a memo that read like a sigh. Mom posted a photo of a Bible on Facebook with the caption, "In God's timing." I turned off my phone and fixed a stuck gate hinge. The last wave came soft. A text from a number I didn't have saved. It's Nate. Want to talk? Not about money. I stared at it for a full minute. I typed, about what? He wrote, about Mom. I put the phone down and went to feed. When I came back, he'd written, "She's saying you're cutting us off for good. Is that true?" I stood in the doorway with a scoop of grain in my hand and thought about what for good means. I thought about closure versus punishment. I thought about Grandma's letter. I typed, "I'm setting boundaries. They're not punishments." He wrote, "So is that a yes?" I wrote, "It's a fence. You can see through it. You just can't climb it." He didn't reply. The calls and posts thinned out. Winter came clean. I put the money where Grandma would've. Land, equipment, people who work. Hired 2 VO-Tech kids. Put the taxes on autopay. On Christmas Eve, I left a cedar wreath on Mom's porch. No note. She posted it as anonymous kindness. I kept scrolling. Do I miss them? I miss the idea of them. The version where Dad praises a straight fence. Mom says, "Son," without asterisk. Nate returns my truck full. Julia laughs on the tailgate. I don't miss paying rent to be lectured or being not really family. In March, I got an envelope in Grandma's hand. Her pie crust card and a line. P.S. Stop using the wrong flour. I laughed on the steps until it hurt good. I still see my parents. At the pharmacy, I held the door. "Thank you," Mom said, eyes down. Not peace, just gravity behaving. No gotcha ending. I'm not punishing them. I'm done funding the thing that crushed me. My name is Edward. I run a farm. She left me everything because she saw me. They tried to take it because they didn't. The judge said the law. I said, "This isn't about revenge. This is about closure." Closure isn't a slam. It's a straight fence. You can lean on it, talk over it, not climb it without permission. I don't know a ladder. Maybe we'll speak again. But I won't pay rent for a seat I can't eat at, answer calls that start with traitor, or buy back a place set only for performers. I get up before dawn. Coffee in Grandma's kitchen. List on an old envelope. Fence lines at first light. Sometimes the frost turns the pasture silver, and I say, "We did it. You and me." The dog tilts his head. For the first time, I believe it.